All right, everyone. Today we have David here. Thank you, David, for taking the time to come on. David's a fourth year medical student in New Jersey, right?
Mhm.
All right. Why don't you give an introduction of yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, hi, everyone. My name is David Lowe. I'm a fourth year medical student at Rowan Virtua School of Osteopathic Medicine here in New Jersey. I am interested in psychiatry. So, right now, I've already finished my applications, sent in my applications for psychiatry, and already have gotten a few interviews and just waiting for a match day.
Well, best of luck with that to you. You'll
Thank
match
you.
well in psychiatry, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. You go to an osteopathic school in New Jersey. Where were you born and raised? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was originally born in Taiwan and
Okay.
I came to America at around 6 months old and
Wow.
have lived in northern New Jersey since. I live
Wow.
in Bergen County with my mom and dad,
Okay.
and I grew around in the Bergen County area and went to college at Rutgers University, um, originally pursuing a master's in business science
Hmm.
in specifically cosmetic chemistry, which was a
Oh,
concentration that you can do as part of the business and science school. So after completing that, I then went on to work as a health professions advisor at Rutgers University, helping minority and economically disadvantaged students get into medical school. And that's how I met Dean Watkins, who's the dean of the Osteopathic School of Medicine. And that's where I am today.
wow. Okay, that's an interesting story. Why don't
Yeah.
you dive into a little bit of your business in cosmetology and cosmetics? Like, why did
Yeah.
you pick that originally?
Yeah, so I originally joined Rutgers University because I
Hmm.
just really liked the environment, and my mom also went there for her master's.
Okay.
So I pursued an accelerated master's BA slash MD, and
Hmm.
my undergrad major was molecular biology and biochemistry. So I was really interested in research and be able to work in a wet lab and understand more of the hard science behind the things that we learn about in medicine.
Sure.
But I pursued a business science because I was very interested in starting up my own biotechnology startup. Hence why
Wow.
I did molecular biology and biochemistry first, and
Hmm.
then completed my master's in business science. And the reason why I did a cosmetic chemistry was because in that program, there wasn't a lot of hard science concentrations that you can pick as a graduate student. So that was the closest one I felt to um, molecular biology and biochemistry.
Interesting. Okay. And then you said you worked at a health professional, right?
Yep, a health
What
professions office.
profession? What do they do exactly?
So a health professions office is available in certain large universities and colleges, and they
Sure.
basically help students get into medical, dental, and graduate schools.
Oh,
So the
wow.
traditional health professions office helps all the students get into specifically medical schools. But for my office that I worked at, we specifically helped underrepresented and economically disadvantaged students get into all types of schools, whether it was
Hmm.
veterinary school, dental school, if they wanted to do some sort of internship, we also assisted with that. And that office was special in that we provided a lot of help with all
Hmm.
their classes that they needed to complete, the core classes they needed to complete. So that includes math, science, upper level sciences, as well as writing. And so that program really allowed us to be able to help all these students get from a place where they might have difficulty with certain classes to a place where they are able to get to their dream schools.
Wow. Okay. So what did you exactly like do to help them? Did you guys like help the application editing and stuff?
Yeah. So starting from um, when they're in high school, we
Yeah.
create a pipeline program to
Okay.
acclimate these students from the transition from high school to college. And that includes providing them with a 4 credit course where they
Hmm.
would learn an entire semester of calculus as well as chemistry in advance to help them prepare for when they actually take the course come that fall. Once they come into college, then they can actually take these courses. But we also provide supplemental instruction sessions that
Mm-hmm.
occur after their official classes, where we provide 2 hours of supplemental learning in the form of lectures, homework, and quizzes, well, where they have this mock environment where they can learn as well as test to see if they actually learn that information. And so these include courses like calculus, algebra, pre-calculus, and all of the above, as well as all the sciences like chemistry, biology, physics, genetics, and even human anatomy and physiology. So we help these students during the first 2 years of college. And then during the third and fourth year they are in college, we provide them with uh, MCAT courses or DAT courses for the dental
Mm-hmm.
students. So
Mm-hmm.
they can come and take these courses with other students who have already completed these exams, who become teachers. And they teach these exams on the weekends so that the students can learn how to prepare for these exams.
Were they like paid courses or were these all free? They were paid?
So the supplemental instruction sessions were non-credited. So
Sure.
that means they could come and learn for free. Um, while the MCAT courses and the DAT courses, those were for credit. So they could actually take a course and actually receive credit on their transcripts and
Okay.
then be able to actually get recognition for taking that course.
Interesting. Okay. So you were basically in the field of all the admission stuff.
Yeah. So after they complete the MCAT and DAT course,
Yeah.
then we help them with their actual medical school admissions. So whether
Interesting.
it's interview prep to writing their personal statement to helping them get letters of recommendations from professors, all of the above, we will help them every step of the way in order to help them get into their dream schools.
Interesting. Wow. So you have a lot of experience in this whole field.
Yeah.
And then what made you decide to become a physician and specifically an osteopathic physician?
Yeah, so at that time, I had just completed my master's in business and science, and
Sure.
I was working full time in that environment. And as I slowly saw all the students that I've taught become medical students, then residents, and some eventually attendings, they often came back to me and mentioned how much they were enjoying learning about
Mhm.
all these different things and how they thought I would be a really great fit to be like one of them, to be a doctor.
Sure.
So the fortuitous event was when I visited uh, Dean Watkins, who was the dean of admissions at
Hmm.
Rowan Virtua. And she was there as part of one of our events. So we hold several dinners and several fairs throughout the year for
Sure.
our students to meet many of the deans throughout the tri-state area. And so when I met her, she and I talked, and from that, we talked about medical school and things like that. And that's how I got inspired to apply to the school.
Interesting. So you didn't always have a passion to become a physician, right?
At the back of my mind, it was always definitely an option. And
Sure.
obviously, in that environment, I definitely needed to be able to understand what it was like to become a physician, as
Hmm.
I not only advised a lot of these students, but I also helped a lot of them get into these schools. So, in the back of my mind, I always had that thought, but it was never something that I pursued 100% until I spoke with Dean Watkins.
Interesting. Okay. And then now that you're pursuing it, how have you been like enjoying it? Has it been a big difference from like I know it's not business school, but like is this something that's fulfilling you, you feel like?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I never imagined I would be able to come to this place where I am, but it's been a whirlwind of a experience. I got to meet so many different people, work in a great environment, learn all types of things that I never would have learned had I stayed in that health advisory position. So I'm very glad that I was able to experience this.
Good, good. And specifically about the school itself, what's your thoughts on like DO schools and stuff? What's your take on them?
Yeah, so I'm a before I always advise my students, and during that time, I never really had any opinion between MD schools and DO schools. For me, it was just apply to all these schools, as many schools as you can. And then when you go and interview, you can tailor your interview or your applications based on what types of schools that you apply to. Now that I am in DO school and I have experienced the curriculum and the program as well as the professors here, I realize it's so amazing that there is such a thing as DO because, in a nutshell, DO is MD plus a physical therapy type of curriculum. And in that setting, you still learn all the same things that MDs do, all the basic sciences, pharmacology, genetics, microbiology, and so on. But you get that added component of having that type of physical therapy, but also osteopathic medicine like education, where
Yeah,
you learn much more in depth about how the inside of your body works, the models that are working throughout your body, as well as how your bones work. So I think in that regard, that has helped me give me a better insight into how the body works and allow me to become a better doctor.
wow, that's great. That's great. And you said you want to go into psych now, right?
Yep, that's
Yeah,
correct. So, psychiatry is something about the mind. So,
sure.
in that field, you actually don't really use a lot of the osteopathic techniques that
Yeah,
you learn in osteopathic school. But for me, psychiatry really appealed to me because I was in this environment where I got to advise these students. And in that setting, I not only served as their advisor, but also part-time counselor as well. So I got to speak with them about any of the challenges they were facing or things that they were experiencing in their lives or maybe a low grade. And so as I learned and grew in that environment, I began to enjoy more about understanding the aspect of how to deal with these troubles and how to overcome it. So that's how I became interested in psychiatry.
interesting. So do you foresee yourself in the future doing psychiatry plus the consulting thing as well in some manner, or just pure psychiatry in the future?
Definitely. So I feel health advising or health consulting, I think that's always been a core part of my identity
Sure.
because I've always been part of that industry in a sense, because I always like helping people, providing advice on how to get into medical school or how to get into residency. So that part of medicine is something that I will definitely take with me.
Perfect. Since you're such an insider on this pathway, I think a lot of the audience that is trying to get into med school, they would like to know what are your like top three, like what would you say are the top three things every pre-med should do to get into a good school?
So the top three things every pre-med should do to help them get into medical school. I
Hmm.
think number one is to be humble. I
Okay.
think that is a really important aspect of not only getting to medical school, but also becoming a doctor. Because as a future physician, you want to be able to work in a team setting, a setting where there's a lot of different people and a lot of different um, admin involved. So you want to be able to have humility and be able to
Sure.
work with all these different people. The second thing I feel is research, because I feel a lot of students, you see pre-med students, they all have, 4.0 or
Yeah.
3.8 GPAs. They have all these great extracurriculars, but there really isn't anything that really helps them stand out. So I think research is a really great aspect, that cherry on top, to help
Hmm.
add to your overall application and show to med school admission boards that you are very committed to this field and you are somebody who wants to advance the field in some way. And then finally, the third one is just to show that you work hard.
Hmm.
This field is something that takes a long time, and there's a lot of hurdles that you'll overcome. and hurdles that you'll face. So
Mhm.
by working hard and making sure that you always have a dedicated schedule and good discipline and good overall um, humility or overall personality to be in this field, that will
Mhm.
help you overall to get into medical school.
Got it. Got it. Thank you for that, David. I know the audience will appreciate that a lot as well.
No
Um,
problem.
I I think thank you in general for, coming here and also for your story. I find it so fascinating how you went from business to a mix of health and business to health. You what made that whole transition on over. Um, is there anything you'd like to say, parting advice to anyone going into the field, just anyone in general? Something you've learned over the past few years of your experience.
Yeah, I definitely feel having an optimistic outlook is something
Uh,
that can really take you far in this field. Because there's always going to be a lot of news or negative press or things about the medicine in general. For example, AI is taking over, or there's a lot of admin oversight, or there's all these different trials and tribulations that you might face as you journey on in this field. So having that positive outlook, that belief that you can do it and you can overcome anything that comes in your way, I think that's an outlook that will take you very far.
got it. Got it. Thank you for that, David. And then wanted to end this podcast, let you ask a question for the next guest to answer. Is there a specific question that you would want someone to answer? Could be about anything that you think of.
Yeah. So my question is, if you had $100,000 to put into your program, whether it was your medical school or your residency program, or maybe if you're still in college, to your college, what would that be and why?
Interesting. Thank you for that. I'm
Yeah,
excited to hear the answer to that.
no
And thank
problem.
you again, David, for joining this podcast. I know everyone's going to be so insightful to hear from you, all the great knowledge you imparted onto them, and wish you the best on your residency match. You'll match well, very sure of that. And thank you again.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.